So I saw Spider-Man Brand New Day, and it was pretty good. A big issue that was persisting a lot of people's opinions on Tom Holland's Spider-Man in particular was the fact that they consider him to be Tony Stark Jr. However, I feel like this film definitely strays heavily away from those entire points. I don't even think Tony Stark was actually mentioned during this entire film. So there's a lot of good, but there's a couple things I got issue with. So let's start with the good. One of the major things that I really enjoyed was the cinematography, weirdly enough. This movie is not gray and bland like a lot of the more recent Spider-Man movies have been. I think that's just a greater MCU issue overall. However, I quite enjoyed the setting of New York. It doesn't feel bland. It doesn't feel gray to look at. And I particularly enjoyed the cinematography as well. There are shots where, like, it transitions from him jumping off a building to swinging in third person and first person all over the city. And it adds a lot of dynamic movement to the entire film. I also particularly enjoyed the roles of the Punisher and some of these side characters in the movie. In general, I feel like they added a lot more, and a lot of people will complain that, oh, well, this is supposed to be a Spider-Man flick. However, a thing with Spider-Man in general, especially when it comes to comics, is that heroes just kind of show up. Like, there will be, like, situations where, yeah, it might be like a Spider-Man comic, but then all of a sudden, these heroes and stuff are going to show up. So the general plot of the movie is Peter Parker's been struggling. Like, he is beaten, he is struggling through the past, I believe it's a 4-year time skip since No Way Home. But he's also grown as Spider-Man. He's taken up the identity so much that Peter Parker just doesn't exist, and he refuses to let Peter Parker exist. And what makes it so interesting is that this eventually begins to consume him so fully that he begins to transform, and this transformation goes into deeper themes in the movie of self-acceptance as well as accepting change no matter what. We see this through different characters, which I don't want to spoil, but I feel like there's never a minute where Peter isn't like the main focus of the film. It does put a heavy he's like in the suit for a majority of the movie, which is a fantastic looking suit, by the way. I generally feel that they did a very well executed version, because I know some people are like, oh, there's not enough Spider-Man, but I feel like this has a good balance between both Peter and Spider-Man, and sort of making them two separate entities overall in this film. Another standout member was the Punisher. So I am a big fan of the Daredevil series, but something I've been kind of finding is how serious the Punisher is in that TV series. I feel that he's sort of taken up this, oh, I'm this guy who's got my family dead. They're dead. I gotta kill. But I feel like his role in this movie is very different. He's a lot more comedic, and yet when he needs to be serious, it's super serious as well. And I think that's a very good side to see of the Punisher, and adds a lot more to him personality-wise as a character. I do generally think that this is the best Spider-Man of the Tom Holland franchise so far, and it feels different from the rest of the Spider-Man movies as well. It's not like, oh, well, this is supposed to be an MCU project, even though there are things that set up the MCU in it. It feels like a Spider-Man film, which is very, very nice. So I want to delve a little bit into spoilers now, because this is a very hard movie to not talk about, but also to not talk about spoilers as well. So if you want to avoid spoilers, skip to this point in the video. So the main villain is casted by Sadie Sink, who there was a lot of online speculation for a few months. And of course, she has been casted as Jean Grey, one of the main X-Men members, which is not a typical pick for a Spider-Man villain. You would figure it would be someone else. However, it fits quite well. However, I do feel like after she is revealed to be the villain in the movie kind of does drag just a little bit. This is the longest Spider-Man movie, and there are certain points where it does feel long. I would have liked to see a little bit more of the secondary villain, which they introduce in the second half as a villain. He's introduced pretty early on. So, Bill Metzger, who is played by Tremel Tillman, and I will say that I do like his character. However, I wish they would set up a little bit more motivation. So, he is the lead of Damage Control, which is this organization that is built to take control and to essentially patch up any incidents that happen with these supervillains that are running around. So we start to see villains like the Shocker turning a new leaf, and we also see the Hand, which is interesting. They're now these reformed like villains and stuff under Damage Control. However, he seems to have it out for mutants, which is not a very good thing. Even if the mutants are inherently good, he sees them as potentially problem causers. They're setting up their future plans with the mutants, although I don't know how this is going to operate with upcoming films like Doomsday, considering they are just bringing back a bunch of the old X-Men cast, but we'll find out, and hopefully they'll stick with a lot of the new ones they're hiring for the eventual MCU X-Men setup. I do like the emphasis they have on Jean Grey, though. I think she is quite compelling, and the casting is very good as well. And I'm excited to see where they take this character in the future, even if it's just a setup. I quite enjoy the themes of change and accepting oneself and one's powers and one's abilities, and to overcome change and realize who you are as a person. It makes the film much more interesting, and rather, there's not a lot of MCU films that really have that good of a message other than, oh, here's a bunch of superheroes doing superhero things. But I think that is a nice change of pace overall. I do like the emotional core between MJ, Ned, and Peter throughout the movie. I feel like it adds a lot more to Peter's character and him clearly having regrets over the things he's done, but also coming to terms with that these aren't the same friends he used to have anymore. However, in future movies, I would like to see them kind of steer away from Ned and MJ, as I feel their stories have been complete, and I would like to have Peter find more people outside of just these two, as, you know, they are not the same person anymore. The inclusion of Hulk also adds on to this point of change and accepting who you are as well, but not just separating yourself from humanity, but also accepting it, which I think is very, very nice touch as well. So you have these four main characters that kind of act in tandem with one another. You have Spider-Man trying to find the difference between Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and then you also have the Hulk, who doesn't want to go back to being the Hulk, so you have Bruce Banner trying to fight that. You have the Punisher, who's way too far gone and has accepted his full change. And then you have Jean Grey, who found it difficult to accept change, also that people can't change as well. The secondary villains as well, the minor villains, are a nice inclusion. I have been waiting years for Scorpion to be included in the movie, and I'm finally glad that he is. I wish he had a little bit bigger of a role, but I will take with what we got. Although I want to see more from some of these other side villains like Tombstone, who definitely took a huge highlight in the film despite only being there for like 10 seconds. Some of the major critiques I have with the film is definitely the length. I feel like they could cut this movie down by even 20 minutes and it would still get a lot of the pacing issues out of the way. I feel that it generally bogs down the movie towards the end a little bit. Its beginning is extremely strong, its middle is really, really good, but then its sort of ending is a little bit slow. Although, the main ending, right at the end, is fantastic, and I love its execution very much. Another huge issue I have is, where is Daredevil? I feel like Daredevil should be in this film. They have the Hand, they have Punisher, he's clearly running around, but I feel that Daredevil would be a perfect mentor for Peter during these times as well. Like, he's also a man who has lost everything. He always fights for change and to be a better person, but he also knows that you have to balance your hero life as well as your social life as well. But I feel like this is just a general missed opportunity they had. But I can't fault him too much for that. So right now, this movie is doing records in the box office, and I expect it to probably be one of the highest box office raising films of all time. Is it worth the hype? Yeah, I think it's a good movie. Is it the best movie of all time? No, it's still, it's still a superhero movie in the end. Not saying that superhero movies can't be the best movie of all time, but it still does have that superhero quirk to it. I will give this one a solid, let's give it an 8 out of 10.